Let the midnight special shine a light on me. Let the midnight special shine a heavy loving light on me. Oh, Black Betty, bam ba lamb. Oh, Black Betty, bam ba lamb. Black Betty, Black Betty, bam ba lamb. Black Betty, Black Betty, bam ba lamb. Jump steady, Black Betty, bam ba lamb. Jump steady, Black Betty, bam ba lamb. Oh, Black Betty.
Did Leadbelly influence modern blues players? Today we talk with the great modern blues master, music historian, and esteemed guitar collector, Joe Bonamassa, about the early folk singer and 20th century guitar virtuoso, Huddie Ledbetter. Later on, we will talk about Joe's upcoming 2025 Relentless tour schedule, new music on the way, and exciting collaborations. 2025 is shaping up to be one of Joe's biggest years yet. Welcome, Joe. It's great to see you, man.
Good to see you, too. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Last year, I covered a story on the documentary film Leadbelly, the Man Who Invented Rock and Roll. Through his iconic songs, Goodnight Irene, Rock Island Line, House of the Rising Sun, and the Midnight Special, Leadbelly left a profound and lasting impact on the most revered folk, blues, and rock and roll icons in every era, including Pete Seeger, Muddy Waters, Bob Dylan, the Beatles, the Stones, Creedence Clearwter Revival, Led Zeppelin, Pearl Jam, and Nirvana, among others. George Harrison famously once said, "No Leadbelly, no Beatles." Born in Louisiana in 1889, Leadbelly was a self-taught folk blues singer who was an early virtuoso on the 12-string guitar. However, he had a violent life. In the 20s and 30s, he was convicted of murder. Miraculously, he eventually sang his way out of prison not once, but twice before starting his music career. For a while, he even was Blind Lemon Jefferson's traveling backup guitarist. So, Joe, with that background, my question is, to your knowledge, can you tell me if there's any evidence that Leadbelly's enduring legacy may have left a lasting imprint on the late 20th century American blues players, such as Buddy Guy, the Three Kings, Albert, Beebe, and Freddie, SRV, and even stretching across the pond to Ireland and the UK, Rory Gallagher and Eric Clapton?
Well, it's easier to trace his lasting legacy to the English and Irish players because of how they married traditional English folk music with blues and used a 12-string guitar. Leadbelly famously used a 12-string Stella, and having the 12-string was kind of separated him from other, like the Sun Houses and Robert Johnsons and, Big Bill Broonsies of the time. And he had a different take on traditional blues. It was more folk music than blues.
Right.
And especially House of the Rising Sun. I mean, the aforementioned titles that you mentioned. And, when you hear somebody playing like Leo Kottke, a 12-string, and singing folk songs, that really goes back to you could trace that directly back. And of course, what George Harrison said, the use of the 12-string in the Beatles. A lot of times, the first time you heard a 12-string was the Beatles or the Byrds. So there's direct correlations to, that mid-60s Laurel Canyon, no pun intended, that's where I'm coming from, and English, rock and roll, that you can directly trace back to Leadbelly's history.
Mm-hmm. Great. Now, Leadbelly use standard tuning, but he would tune his strings down a whole step to prevent his neck from warping, because back in those days, it was before truss rods were invented. So, could Leadbelly's tunings have influenced late 20th century blues players' tunings like Albert King? Joe, isn't it true that Albert King, when he tuned his guitar, he tuned it down a whole step, then further tuned his low E and A strings down another whole step? His tuning ended up being a CFC-FAD.
There's many, some people say it was open E minor or open A minor, or G minor. I don't really know Albert's tuning. He was an immaculate conception guitar player. A lot of times when you go to learn or play along with original blues music, the stuff that was recorded, in the 20s and 30s and 40s, a lot of times the guitar is not in tune with itself. It's in tune, wow, but it's not tuned to a pitch. Like it's not C, it's not D, it's C sharpish, and it's because they just, sounds in tune here, and I'm the only one playing. So we're not playing with a piano. We're not playing, and so, a lot of times when they would tune those guitars down, it was to make them play better. It was, the Stella harmony that he was famous for playing for. Mm-hmm. No, they didn't have truss rods, but even a 12-string with a truss rod to pitch to standard A440 it's a lot of tension on the guitar itself.
How did they tune their guitars back in those days? Did they just have a pitchfork?
Pitchfork, yeah.
That's it.
Or to itself. They would tune to itself. So it's close enough. It sounds close enough, or a piano. Not until, Kahn in the 50s did they come out with an actual tuner.
Really?
Yeah, and the original Kahn stroke tuners were tube devices.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Do you think Leadbelly indirectly or directly influenced your playing, Joe?
Never. I'm influenced by people he influenced. I'm not.
Got it.
I never sat down and did the deep dive on Leadbelly. I was more, I was more of, I've always been more of the interpretation of the English, of their interpretations of that music, but it's cool. I mean, it's haunting, a lot of the times when you hear those recordings, now you have to understand when they were going direct to acetate, it's not a question of was the guitar in tune, was the machine, what voltage the machine was running, because sometimes if you hear, I'm convinced that the early Robert Johnson stuff went down, sped up, like his voice sounds sped up to me, and I'm not the only person that thinks that, because it's almost not humanly high, I would love to hear him speak. I would love to have a recording of him saying something, so you put it together. And again, guitar is in tune with itself. He's in tune with the guitar, but we don't know, was it the recording device, or is it just him? You'll never know, because to be honest with you, that they were recording this stuff in San Antonio and Dallas and rooms. They would just set it up, and it wasn't like now. You're not going to Sunset Sound.
I'm surprised there is no recorded evidence of his voice anywhere in the record.
It cost money. It was direct to disc. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, okay, Robert, here's song 1. Okay, direct to disc. Here's song 2. Don't say anything, because we don't want to hear you speak.
Time is money.
It wasn't tape. It was direct to acetate. They would cut the master recording to disc, before tape was invented.
So interesting, man. Joe, congratulations. Your latest studio album release, Blues Deluxe Volume 2, and live CD, DVD, Live at the Hollywood Bowl,
Yeah.
both debuted at #1 album on the Billboard Blues chart.
Why
It was
not?
your 28th #1 album on the Billboard Blues chart, more than any other artist in the chart's history. Amazing.
Pretty amazing fact, isn't it?
It
Yeah.
is. It really is.
28.
On the heels of that incredible success, let's talk about your latest single, Fortune Teller Blues, a collaboration with the great Sammy Hagar, featuring a gritty, high-energy blues rock sound. You co-wrote the song with longtime producer Kevin Shirley and recorded it in Greece.
Well,
Where
I
you
co-wrote it with Sammy Hagar. He sent me the lyric.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he sent me the lyric, and he goes, "I got this blues song. Do you want to write some music?" I'm like, "Sure." And Kevin and I put music to it, and then I sang it, and we sent it to him. And he sang it, and it was great.
So cool, man. When you laid down, I mean, you laid down some interesting experimentation on that track. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, I didn't have any guitars with me. We recorded that in Greece, and there was some house guitars. There was a Les Paul, a Telecaster, and an Ovation acoustic. And we needed something down-tuned to get it to C. Speaking of Ledbetter, get it down-tuned. And the only thing that would stay in tune was the acoustic. So I plugged the acoustic through the amp, because it has a pickup in it. And so what you hear on that song is an acoustic guitar through a distorted amp. So it sounds kind of sounds like a Dan Electro, but it's an Ovation. It's actually just an Ovation through an amp.
And it worked.
You'd be surprised we can get to work in the studio. You just keep filling knobs until it sounds right.
Yeah.
You know?
Did you think it was going to work?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Beforehand?
there's precedent for that. Like Janie's Got a Gun, the Aerosmith guitar
Right.
solo on that is an acoustic guitar through an amp.
Through a distortion pedal or something?
No, not a distortion, but
No?
through an amp.
Okay.
Through an
Gotcha.
amp. Like you probably plugged it through a Marshall or something like that. And that's the sound. And
Wow.
I always thought it was really clever.
Yeah.
And I kind of channeled that, but it was like I had three guitars, two of which wouldn't stay in tune on their best day, and the other one was an acoustic guitar with heavier strings. I said, well, we'll just drop that down, and it was a pain in the ass, but we got there.
Yeah. Hey, man, you work with what you got, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know you're preparing for a U.S. Spring 2025 tour, Joe, which launches February 16th in Seattle, right? And
Correct.
it includes stops in New York, Chicago, Atlanta, and more before wrapping up on March 19th in Melbourne, Florida.
Yeah.
Immediately following that tour, from March 21st through the 26th, you'll be headlining a blues cruise, the 10th anniversary of Keeping the Blues Alive at CX Cruise, which will be sailing from Miami to Harvest Caye, Belize, and
Yeah.
Costa Maya, Mexico. Really exciting stuff, man. Tell us more about that.
Tell us about what, the cruise or the
About
tour?
what's going on with that cruise, both of them, the tour and the cruise.
That's my cruise. I'm not headlining.
I gather that.
It's my cruise. It's our 10th anniversary. I think we've done 15 so far because we do 2 a year.
Yeah.
And I'm excited because we have a Big Head Todd and the Monsters are going to be on there.
Cool.
A lot of great people. Eric Gales, Joanne Shaw Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of alumni over 10 years, and it raises a lot of money for the foundation, and it also it creates a nice community. And I was speaking to the Americana singer the other day, Maggie Rose, about how she met Little Feat on my cruise, and they've had this relationship now where they collaborate. So it creates a lot of it's nice to see the relationships and the community that is created when you stick 3,000 people on a boat with no options either to jump off or be nice.
Hey, you have Christone Kingfish Ingram on that cruise also, and Samantha Fish, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Joanne Shawn Taylor. You got
Shaw.
some real heavyweights on that cruise.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's our 10th anniversary.
Yeah.
and we've been doing this a long time, and it's really nice, and it sells out really quickly,
Nice.
and thanks to the fans who have been supportive over the years. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not lost on me. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not easy to sell cruise
No,
cabin.
man. I see more artists doing that. Chris Botti, the jazz trumpeter, has a jazz cruise every year for the last 10 years
Yeah,
or more. That's great. It's
and
fantastic.
it's a people love going, and they love the community that it creates, and Chris does it. There's a Monsters of Rock.
Yeah.
There's a jam band cruise. There's, you name it. There's two blues cruises, ours and Rogers, and I don't think Roger thought we would last 5 years, but fuck him, and here for 10 years. So what? So what? There's room for everybody.
Right. You showed him.
I don't need to show him. We did it.
You did it. Right.
And at the end of the day, he's doing well too.
Yeah.
So who is he to say anything other than good luck?
Yeah.
Because that's what I say to everybody. Good luck.
Right. Yeah.
I wish you the best.
You support everybody.
And I'm not disingenuous. I do mean it. Like, hey,
Yeah.
you know what? I can tell you what it costs to rent a cruise ship for a week. I could tell you a lot of things about cruising that not a lot of people want to know. Don't eat the ice cream.
Hey, like you said, there's enough room for everybody.
Correct.
Joe, you're also embarking on an extensive European tour this spring and summer, which includes both headlining dates and a highly anticipated run with your supergroup, Black Country Communion.
Yeah.
Tell my viewers who's on the gig and the European cities where you'll be performing.
Black Country Communion, first time in 13 years. Jason Bonham, Glenn Hughes, Derek Sherinian. We're touring for the first time. We played last year. We played a couple of shows last year. So we infrequently get together. But yeah, we're touring the whole month of June, and we're doing some European festivals. It'll be great, and I love those guys, and every time I get on stage, I'm like, oh, this may be the last time.
Yeah.
Who knows?
13 years.
Yeah,
13 years. I had no idea it was that long.
First tour since 2000. No, 14. 2011 was the last time we did it.
Wow. That's great, man. Joe, I understand beyond your live performance in 2025, you're back in the studio, keeping it up with a prolific pace, working on new material set for release later this year, and with your independent label, Journeyman Records. Is that right?
Let me unpack that. We have a record in the can that we're going to be releasing singles throughout the year. Journeyman Records, that's Joanne Shaw Taylor, that's Robert John and the Wreck. Okay, the Keeping the Blues Alive label is when we record people like Jimmy Hall and Larry McRae and the stuff that I produce, my label, which has been since the last 25 years, the J&R Adventures, which is just an imprint. It's all the same people. It's all the same. There's no delineation, other than corporate ID numbers. I've been, we've been an independent artist for 25 years, and back in the time when it wasn't chic to do it. It wasn't like, oh my God, you're an independent artist. Well, I wake up 25 years later, I own all my master recordings, which is now, something that a lot of people want to get involved in. So I'm not in the studio this year. I'm not recording anything. Everything has already been done. We have 18 songs in the can that we've recorded over the last 2 years, including this thing with Sammy Hagar, which we recorded 2 years ago this month.
Really?
Yeah, that was recorded 2 years ago. See?
That's not the information I got.
Huh?
That's not the information I got, but that's really interesting.
Well, yeah. I mean, it seems like I'm in the studio every other day, but I'm not. Everything gets recorded in batches. So you got 10 songs, we go and cut 10 sides, and then you forget about it, and then you go out and tour and do something else, and you get distracted. And finally, stuff starts coming out.
Right. Can you talk about some of the blues and roots artist stuff you're doing? Are you currently signing and developing on your label? And your further commitment towards supporting these next generation musicians?
We're not signing artists like ad hoc. We have Joanne Shaw Taylor, who we've invested in her career, made sure in the vertical integration of her career, meaning it's touring, it's merchandise. It's music. Same thing with Robert John the Wreck. We do records for Larry McRae. That's one of our artists, and we've done records. We just did a record with Mark Broussard, the great Mark Broussard, and we have collaborated in the past on his blues album, and this one's coming out on J&R Ventures. So a lot of the times, I mean, these are established artists that we can help, with marketing, and truly that is the biggest. The biggest challenge in the music business of 2025 is marketing and a means to an end, in the sense that you have artists that have high name recognition, but sometimes don't have the marketing budget behind it. So that's where we come in.
Got it. Tell my viewers about your Keeping the Blues Alive Foundation.
My Keeping the Blues Alive Foundation?
Yeah.
Well, we've raised over $2 million for both music education and artists that were struggling during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And that's why we do the cruises, is to help finance that. And we give all the money away. You'd be surprised in how hard it is to raise money for kids in schools with music. Yeah. And nobody wants to give any money for that. What
type of lasting legacy do you hope to leave with that foundation?
Well, I don't know if it's going to say, Joe Bonamassa, 1977 to whatever, founder of Keeping the Blues Alive Foundation on my tombstone. But if it helps musicians, it's great.
Yeah.
Who else is doing it?
Right.
Music Cares. There's us. There's a few other people.
Gotcha.
And all the people in our office that work on Keeping the Blues have other jobs. So it's not like it's not like the typical 501c3 situation where people are making 6-figure salaries and none of the money goes to the people you're trying to help.
Great. Last question, Joe. Tell us about the key role you played in producing and supporting recent releases by artists such as Joanne Shaw Taylor, Robert John and the Wreck, Mark Broussard, Larry McRae, and Jimmy Hall through your work with KTBA Records.
I produced some of that stuff.
Okay.
As a record producer.
I didn't know you were a producer.
Either did I. I'm not a record producer. I just play one on TV. I mean, I don't know what I can tell you after that. I've produced some of that music. We produced Jimmy Hall's record, Mark Broussard's blues record, and we just did another one. Joanne Shaw Taylor, I did 2 records for her, but she's also done, I think now she's on her 3rd with Kevin Shirley.
Yeah.
Larry McRae, we just finished his 2nd. That'll be out this year.
Joe, thank you.
Good to see you again. I'll see you at the bitter end.
You continue to push the boundaries. We deeply appreciate your work.
I'm glad you went through John this time, like I told you at the bitter end.
Of course. I'll see you soon. Always loved seeing you, man.
Good to see you, my friend. Thank you.
Take care now. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Thanks, John.
Let the midnight special shine a light on me. Let the midnight special shine a heaven on me.